Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by, amazing people over at Folgers, who have been with us for the last several years. So thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you, nor would we want to. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, a.k.a. Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for the contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro you just heard. Justin is an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, big thanks to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind our logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror and Halloween genre, but does phenomenal commission pieces of any type. So tonight, we welcome back dear friend and frequent flyer, Jason Hewlett, who's back to talk about his latest documentary with Small Town Monsters called Sasquatch Legacy. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll put up a trailer for you. But before we do that, let's welcome Jason Hewlett. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm okay. Been a day, but otherwise I'm all right. I made it.
It sounded like it when we were talking before coming on. That was enough for one Wednesday.
I think so. It's hump day too. So I'm thinking, okay, it's got to get easier.
One hopes.
I know, man. You're not kidding. You are not kidding. You have a new documentary.
Yes.
Okay. Can I play the trailer? Is that okay?
Yes, I think that'd be cool.
Okay, good. I'm going to do that. I'm a little more organized this time. Since in the last time, because we know how that went last time I tried this. So, okay, there we go. Ooh, that was quick. There it is. Okay, people, have a look-see. Everybody's saying you couldn't hear it. We were hearing it. Did you hear it?
Yeah. I don't know what happened.
Sorry, guys. I'll have to try to see if I can bring her back on, and we'll maybe play it again in the end. But I'm not really sure why it didn't play, or why you guys saw it, but why you didn't get any sound, because it came through soundboard loud and clear. We were having great old time listening to it. So
Technology's weird, man. That's all I can say.
I have absolutely no explanation for that one, because we could hear it, and if we hear it, you should be able to hear it. But they can find it with your YouTube page. Yeah.
Yeah, Small Town Monsters has it.
There we go.
Yeah.
Go look them up, and if you haven't following them, start following them.
Time. It's
Right.
time.
It's good stuff coming out of that camp. So,
Very, very. It's great to be a part of it, actually.
oh my gosh, yes. I mean, you've done a few things with them. You've done Ogopogo, you've done the Wendigo, and
Yes.
now Sasquatch.
An interesting progression when you think about it. Like,
Yeah,
like this-
monsters to the want to kill you Wendigo.
to the wild
Ogopogo
man
wants
of
to
the woods.
avoid you. That's a safe one.
Yeah, well, that's too. It's like it's bookmarked. Like Wendigo's bookmarked by two things that are far less,
Yeah.
malevolent. Anyways, I mean, Sasquatch is kind of its own thing. It depends who you talk to, and which tribe you're mentioning, because they have different belief systems in regards to it. It's Sasquatch is complicated. I think not as weird as the Wendigo, but it's a complicated subject.
Okay, I'm a novice, and I think, given a choice, I would opt for the Sasquatch any day.
Oh, same. Yeah, big time.
The Wendigo is terrifying.
Yeah, but it is, and I mean, and we talked about this when I was on about Wendigo. Like when you go out to do an investigation into Wendigo, it's probably far less smart than trying to go and do an investigation into Sasquatch. I felt way more comfortable with all, because there's a sequence in Sasquatch Legacy where we do an investigation at a sighting, and even though the sighting was more aggressive,
yes,
I felt way more comfortable doing that than I did when we went and did our investigation into the Paul Lake Wendigo. So.
Yeah, I can't imagine why, but yeah. So I have to ask though, do you think there seems to be a resurgence in interest in Sasquatch?
I think so. Because it was when I was growing up. So I mean, late 70s, early 80s, it was big. Sasquatch was big. People talked about it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of died off. Like interest in it definitely seemed to die off. But it's kind of in the last 8 years, it feels like it's really picked up. I don't know if it ties into the TV shows or anything like that, but people are definitely talking more about Sasquatch. I know even with Small Town Monsters, Sasquatch has primarily become their bread and butter. Like they were doing a lot of programming, they did stuff on Mothman and the Thunderbirds and UFOs and Champ and all these other things and Dogman, but now it is primarily Sasquatch and Dogman. I think that's just because where people's appetites are at. I know when they talked about Wendigo, they didn't know what to expect, how well Wendigo would do, just given it's lesser known, but it's done quite well for them.
Yeah,
but even Sasquatch Legacy in terms of viewership is tracking ahead of it because it's Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I find if you just get into some of these streaming media platforms, all of a sudden it's Sasquatch everywhere, and a lot of Small Town Monster stuff is playing. I think some of the older stuff is coming forward, and I mean, I know I had a full-on binge watch of Small Town Monster stuff. I was just like, look, this is like gold, and it was perfect because it was all in tune with you coming on and talking about the documentaries. So realistically, it's just like, I think I've seen some of their stuff surface before, but you brought them more in the forefront for me.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it's very they do really good stuff. Like I was telling you before, I don't know who the narrator was on some of these things, that the ones you're not on, because I know you do a lot of your own stuff, but it is the most soothing, trusting voice. It's okay.
I think you're talking about Mark Matsky. He's in Sasquatch Legacy, but he narrates a couple series for them as well.
Right.
And yeah, he just has the voice you can trust.
You do.
Like when you listen
it's okay to go in the woods.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it. But then with the Wendigo's like, no. Don't
go in
it. Don't go in the woods. Don't go in the woods. No. No, they're very, very well done. So I mean, in watching the documentary Sasquatch Legacy, it seems that British Columbia in Canada, which is where a lot of this is filmed, seems to be a hot zone.
It always has been British Columbia. I mean, this is where the term Sasquatch started, which is, we talk about that in the film. It's one of the, whole middle section of the film takes place at Harrison Hot Springs.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time with Thomas Steenberg, who's like one of the legends of the Sasquatch research field. I mean, knew John Green and Renee DeHinden, who are two of the four horsemen of hello, good evening, everybody.
Yeah, I just flashed them up.
Two of the four horsemen, who are the original big Sasquatch researchers. And there's the museum in Harrison Hot Springs, and a lot of that's Thomas's stuff. But he explained like that this is where it began, the word Sasquatch, through the Chehalis people, and they called them Saskets. But J.W. Burns, when he was writing the article, couldn't translate it directly, so he just changed it a bit and started calling them Sasquatch, and the term stuck. And the Sasquatch phrase was coined, hey Kathy, well, I think a good 2 decades before the term Bigfoot even came along, which I thought was really interesting too. So Sasquatch go way back. They're as big a part of our British Columbia history as I think anything else.
I think you're right. There's so much that goes on out in the western part of Canada. It is amazing,
Yes.
and it seems to be connected. Like everything out there seems to be connected. You speak with any of the Indigenous up there, they're just like, they know about literally everything. They've encountered everything. But then you get those that you can't talk about it.
Which I think is really interesting. Like it made sense like with Wendigo, given just the nature of the Wendigo. But I know when I was talking with Coralie Miller, who it was in the Cursed Waters documentary, and she could talk at length about Ogopogo, which for them it's Naha'it, but talk about Strunatum, which is their Sasquatch. She could say very little on camera, which I found interesting. But the West Bank First Nations don't treat it as a strictly friendly being. Like she talks about people being spirited away by them. I know, and I don't know if it was in the film, but it was when her and I talked sort of off camera a little bit, like it would eat their children, you know what I mean? And that's where they kind of parted ways.
That's it for us.
And I think that might have come up in the Ogopogo documentary, but it's interesting. Whereas Sheldon Cuisant, he was from out east, but he's Indigenous, so he was more open to talking about it. But he even sort of mentioned that people, even the Indigenous people in Merritt, wouldn't talk about it or talk to him too much about it. And then when I tried getting hold of the Chehalis themselves, no one would return my calls or emails. So
wow. It's interesting to me because you have some Native communities who are all about it. Like I know we have Don Yazzie from the Navajo Nation, who's got a show on, and I think you'd make a great guest for him, because it's all like it's not even from the Navajo Nation. It's from people like the different Indigenous communities that all have the same stories, no matter where they all are. They're all spread out. It's mind blowing, but they're leery about Skinwalker, talking about that. They can talk about it a little bit, being younger generation based on, let's say, educational purposes. And that's where it's left at. But they're pretty free to, like, he's just like, what do you want to know?
Which is, Navajo are like that though. I think, and I've never, obviously I'm in Canada, so I never had dealings with them, but I mean, that seems so refreshing, but they're open to it. I mean, they're on every show about Skinwalker Ranch, and there's a whole unsolved mysteries about, paranormal police on the reservations, and they talked about it. There's not even a problem, right? Which is just so different than what I run into up here.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, they're pretty clamp mouth, but that's okay. It's part of their oral tradition, and I'm sure that they have seen a lot of things throughout, their history of their people. Like, I mean, I always go back to Portland, Alaska.
Oh yeah.
18 feet tall. Ron Moorhead was telling us about it because he was on the show. He goes, "Oh yeah," he goes, they were giving information from the Native community up there. He goes, "Oh no, they're like 18 feet tall and they'll eat you." That doesn't sound fun.
No, it's wild. And there's a fair share of aggressive Sasquatch stories. I mean, that's even one in Sasquatch Legacy that kicks it off, about it sounded like an aggressive encounter. You know what I mean? So I think these things
Yes.
do happen. Most are supposed to be, as Sheldon Cleason says, most are just very, very gentle, very calm, calm
Mhm.
over in a second. But I think there are those few,
Mhm.
for whatever reason, or
Mhm.
they're not.
Yes, I agree. Do you think they're dimensional beings? Ah, asking the logical guy.
Like it's a tough one. Like when I went into Sasquatch Legacy, I leaned more to the dimensional spiritual side of things, just because my background is I'm a ghost hunter, so to me that it does make sense. But through the filming of it, I kind of started landing more in the flesh and blood camp, and I think it's because I spent a lot of time around like Thomas Steenberg, Jerry Matthews, Brad Trent, like these old school guys, who did make a good case that like in indigenous culture they attach spiritual meaning to everything, and they believe definitely in different dimensions, etc. Not saying that they're wrong at all, or disrespecting that, but I think if you really want to get an answer to this, you need to look at the flesh and blood cryptozoological way in order to really, I think, rule this out. I think that's going to might pee off a lot of people, me saying that, but I think that
Yeah.
you got to take that approach first
Mhm.
and rule that possibility out before you could look at anything else. To automatically jump into the spiritual camp, I think you're not going to find the answer.
Mhm.
I think you got a greater chance of finding the answer if you look at it as a physical being. And you and I talked beforehand that there's,
Yeah.
the DNA evidence has come up that supports it as
Mhm.
being part human, part something else.
Mhm.
And that's not to say then that there isn't a spiritual component to it,
Mhm.
because there's certainly a lot of stories that go into the quantum realm, and
Yeah.
but lots of animals use different frequencies to make you
Mhm.
feel scared or make you, so you know what I mean? I think
Mhm.
you got to look at this is a physical being first.
You get into that infrasound as well. Like if
Yeah.
you, during your investigations, while you're up there with even a group of people, have you ever been hit by infrasound, do you think?
I'm not well doing investigations, but I don't know if we talked about this or not, but
Mm.
because we've talked so much lately, and then interviewed you for my show, which is coming in the new
I
year.
know.
But I had two
Mm.
experiences about 20 years apart at the Shuswap Lake. My family's had a cabin out there since before I was born, and we finally sold it in 2019
Mhm.
after both my parents had passed away. But back in 1996, I had been out there for about a week rebuilding the deck. And I'd finished, and I'm like, you know what? I want one last night out here at the cabin. I just want to relax. I'm tired. I'm sore. I'll go home in the morning and have a couple drinks, just chill out to some music, read a book, and go to bed. And I'd cleaned up, I'd had dinner and all that, and I was just sitting down to get relaxed. And like all the hair went up on the back of my neck. I went from completely calm to like freaking out. I could just feel it. And it's just like, I can't say that I heard a voice or anything, but it's like, you've got to leave and you've got to go right now. And so I packed, and I'm pretty logical, but I listened, I packed everything up. I loaded it into my car. And back then it was literally just a cabin. So the pump and everything was under the deck, and you couldn't leave that running. You had to turn it off when you'd leave. And it was getting dark. And that was probably the most terrifying 5 minutes of my life, climbing underneath the cabin to switch the pump off and everything and the power, and then getting back up and getting in my car. And it was an hour drive back to town. It took almost that full hour for me to calm down.
Wow. I'm not
That freaked out.
surprised.
And I mean, like I said, I grew up at that place. I'd been out there like for all summer because my mom was a teacher. So we'd spend the full 2 months basically out there.
Mm.
First time that ever happened was 1996. Then in 2016, 2017, completely rebuilt the cabin. It was more like a house on the water kind of thing. I was out there on like an annual
Stairs
trip.
to the underneath? No.
Oh yeah, everything's inside. You don't have
Yeah.
to. You can turn off the pump. You don't have to turn off the pump anymore. That was a big upgrade. Same thing. I was out there on a solo vacation. My wife and son were in town. I kind of got out there the day before. I spent the night. I was like going to spend another night before going back in. I just cleaned up the dishes, everything like that. Exactly the same sensation. Exactly the same.
Wow.
Out of nowhere. And I basically was like, okay. And I just packed everything up, loaded it into the truck, locked the door, drove home. Same thing. Took almost a full hour for it to go away. And it never happened after that.
Do you think there's just something about your energy that it connected with? Like, do you feel it was a Bigfoot, or do you feel that was something more ethereal being, like a
I've had weird
researcher?
things happen out there. Like, you know what I mean? I've
Yeah,
had
yeah.
spooky stuff, but this was something. This was like if you're here, you're in danger. Like it's not safe for you to be here
Wow.
anymore. It was
Wow.
almost like what Sheldon Cuisance talked about in his Headley
Yeah.
story, but when they were walking down, it was like a sense of you're not supposed to be here. So I left. And the next time when I came back out, no
Mhm.
problem. So
Mhm.
I'm not sure
Wow.
what it was, but it fit into things I'd heard about Sasquatch and that infrasound and the fear
Yeah.
frequency and stuff like that that they're supposed to use. And it is Sasquatch territory around there. Like the Shuswap First Nations very much believe in Sasquatch. They've got pictures of it at like, their resort that they've opened and stuff like that. So
Mm.
maybe one was wandering around and needed to do something down on the water at that particular spot. Who knows? I can only
Twice,
speak
a decade
twice,
apart.
20 years
Yeah.
apart.
No coincidence there. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see, just moving on.
Yeah, moving along. Oh my gosh. Okay, a couple of just questions, comments, and then we can move from that point. I was wondering, could this be us just seeing what we want?
In terms of stuff in the woods that are like Sasquatch?
Yeah, can you elaborate on that a little
Yeah,
wee
I'd be
bit?
curious just to know.
Okay. And next, cat. Hello, cat. I'm starting to think there are two different beings. One is flesh and blood, and the other may be something else, taking the shape of Bigfoot. So, I mean, as a paranormal investigator, could you be dealing with some kind of a mimic or shapeshifter being out there?
There are the indigenous people that believe heavily in the trickster spirits, which will do many things to try to lure you out, and they do
Yeah.
spirit you away from everyone I've talked to on the subject matter, or
Wow.
do things to you. So could be that's a theory, right? That's all we're
Yes.
kind of dealing with when it comes to this sort of stuff is theories.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Wayne says, "What about a big?" Again, we go back to the, telepathy. Did you have any encounters of telepathy during any of your research investigations?
Not anything on the film, no. There was nothing like that. Even when we were pretty sure there was something close to us because we could smell like it urinated basically right
Yeah.
near where we were, and when something was moving, there's nothing telepathic going on. It was whatever was there, it seemed was just like it was a physical thing. And there all the evidence that we could find around that area proved to something that was definitely big and heavy because it was leaving prints in the mud where it looked like it had
Mm,
jumped down and put a hand down.
mm.
That speaks to me as something very physical.
Yes, agreed. Could they take the form that we are comfortable with if they're being telepathic? So I guess it's like if they're picking up maybe on how we feel about it, would they take on a form that we would be comfortable with?
Maybe
Yeah,
John Keel talked about like ultra terrestrials that would kind of
he
present
did.
themselves in whatever form, would be most we could recognize basically. So that could be the case.
Yes. Yeah, I think it gets back to that, like, I love John Keel. I love the whole theory of everything. But again, it's just that feeling. It's just like one
Yeah.
day we're really gonna know. But then I mean, would it even be fun to keep researching when you have all the answers, or
No.
even if you get close? I know. Half the
My
fun
job
is
would be
looking.
done.
Yeah, half the fun is looking. He goes, "I've heard that if there are women in the vicinity, they report hearing the sound of a baby crying."
Yes, I've heard that as well. And I know Alex Petikoff's recent talks about that on his recent Bigfoot Beyond the Trail. He was up in Alaska
Mhm,
at the area. He said that the people who had come to that cabin, if there's
mhm.
women around, they would hear what sounded like a baby crying, which is
Gosh.
creepy. And I know if you play the
Yes.
sound of a baby crying, it's supposed to call them out. People have had bad experiences trying that.
Note to self.
We did once on a We Want to Believe episode way back.
Of
Nothing
course
came
you
out, but it
did.
was one of the worst couple minutes of our life. We're all parents too, so we're out in the woods playing the sound of this baby crying with all the lights turned off. It was just like, ugh. I wouldn't
Yeah,
recommend that.
as a parent, that would be wiggy. But did you get
It
any
was
results from it?
no,
Wow, really?
did not. So
Why do you think they do that? Why would they like to mimic? Do you think it's to attract the females closer to
I
them or
I
make them feel
maybe I know
vulnerable?
there's stories, and Thomas Steenberg talked about this a bit with me on something else of like the forest bride concept where Bigfoot would take women from tribes
Yeah.
or women who go missing, and that's, I don't know, like they mate and create more,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So that's a theory. So calling a sound of a baby, I don't know very many women, mothers or not, who wouldn't want to go to the sound of that baby to if it was in distress. I don't know
Yeah.
many people who wouldn't, who've
Yes.
got a soul of any kind who wouldn't want to know what
Yes.
that was and go out. But
Yeah. Well, then
why
what
would
you
a
do is you
baby be
just send
alone?
in a guy. That's
Yeah,
what they want. They're good for the team. Get in there. Go and see
right.
what's going on.
Give me the baby.
You're safe. Yeah. You're
Yeah,
safe. You know.
but I think the first question you got to ask yourself is why would a baby be crying in the middle of the woods? Like, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Exactly. Common sense has to prevail at some point in there.
I agree 100%.
Kat says, yeah, I've also had people tell me Bigfoot is a spirit, a guardian of certain areas across the planet.
I know that's Coralie Millard mentioned that. There was like a forest spirit, guardian of the woods. Different meanings depending on which tribe you're hearing the story from. But yeah, it's definitely one of the big prevailing theories in Indigenous lore.
Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised. I mean, so many people have seen just this, actually. He goes, I saw growing up in the country, he's on the East Coast, we're moving through the trees translucent looking. So I was thinking maybe dimensional. Maybe there's a group of them that are, and maybe a group that's more, maybe the hybrids are
Maybe,
more.
or maybe it's not even Sasquatch. It's something else entirely that we're just attributing to Sasquatch.
Yes. I've seen a video clip of that, and it just looks like it went translucent.
Well, it's like
And
the movie Predator. People say it's like watching the movie Predator. And the thing
yes,
has its invisibility thing on, that it looks like that.
yes, yes.
And we've yeah. So
It's like yes, no. That kind of just doesn't level the playing field at all.
no,
Kat says, I heard a baby crying years ago while I was out with a friend. Heard it in the brush. I sent him in to see what it was. It was a porcupine. Never knew they made that sound.
well, and that is a very important thing to keep in mind. Like, we did another investigation that's not in the film, where we're in an area with a whole bunch of trees and a lot of dead trees, and it was cold and the wind was up, and I swear those trees rubbing against each other, depending where you were, sounded like people screaming. You know what I mean? Like, you could mistake, if you were not familiar enough with being in the and spend a lot of time in the woods, you would mistake a lot of things that are natural sounds for being something that was supernatural or a monster. And that's something, I mean, my buddy Sean, who's he was in Tracking the Wendigo, and he does all the music for me, did all the music in Sasquatch Legacy. Tells me this story, or him and his buddies were out camping and they heard the most inhuman sound that they'd ever heard, and they could hear it across the lake, and it kept getting closer. And he's like, it's big. And one of the guys locked themselves in the car with the rifle, had left everyone else outside where this thing kept coming. And it was a moose. It turned out it was a moose coming up the path, but the sound it was making did not sound like anything you'd attribute to a moose. And I think when you're doing this work, you've got to keep that in mind. Like, we are not, unless you're like living in the woods 24/7, you're not familiar with every sound there.
Yeah.
And I think we make the mistake of attributing it to these other things.
You have to be, you have to be logical, of course, because you're in the woods. So
yes, you're in the woods.
It could be anything. Yeah, Kat said, she goes, I knew that porcupines mumble when they're walking. That's funny. So they're mumblies. Yeah, they mumble when they're walking. She goes, I said, okay, but a baby cry was kind of creepy.
That's new. Yeah, that's a new one.
Yeah, so you hear mumbling. It could be a porcupine.
It's probably a porcupine. You're okay. Don't try to grab it.
Kevin says the three of them, as per his other comment about being translucent, he goes, they all sort of look like Chewbacca. Intuitively, he goes, it felt like male, female, and a child, like a younger, smaller.
Okay.
So, possible. C'est possible.
Possible. Anything is possible, I think.
Yes, I agree. Is it only women that hear them?
No, I've other people have heard them too.
Okay, very interesting.
It's just that when they come up, they'd hear them only when women were present. So everyone could hear the crying, but only when the women were there. So obviously, if something like a Sasquatch is going to pay attention and look who's around, and they could probably be like 10 feet from you. I even say that in the documentary. They could be like 10 feet away and we'd never know they were there.
Yeah, that's insane. Oh. Wayne says his son encountered a sound while in the mountains of Alberta. It was like a human screaming. His friend who lives there said it was a small wild cat, a native small wild cat.
I could understand that. Yeah, like wildcats, like cougar, bobcat.
Yes. Okay, so here's a question by Skid Row Slasher. I like that handle. Cool, I can't put the name up of the person, but I will highlight it here. Jason, can you see the just because I get myself in trouble, we're not allowed to do stuff like that.
Where is it here?
Okay, yeah. Okay, right beside it. Okay, could you see the one I've highlighted?
Yeah.
You just said, okay. Is a fake scammer claims to know the names and ages of the Bigfoot around him.
Yes, everything I've heard suggests yes.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so I have to leave it there. I can't.
You can't.
We get into so much trouble with stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes, I've heard that. Yes.
Okay. All righty then. Hi, Guardian.
Good evening.
Yes. Hello. All right. So moving along. The gift giving I found to be very interesting.
The sharing of the rock concept.
Yeah, that's
take a rock that has meaning to you and you're walking through the woods. If you come across one, you just give it the rock and for safe passage. That which I think that shows just how even these things, you can have a symbiotic relationship, but you know what I mean? Like you can be on the same time. You hear stories of people who have farmland or have had a cabin in the remote areas and there's been Sasquatch around that they just kind of get along. And I think like anything, they'll become aggressive. And again, it's all theory, but just from everything I've heard, that they'll become aggressive if there's a reason to. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I know with Kenton, I can't remember if he mentioned it in the story, when his buddy had the experience that we talked about at the beginning of the film where the big chunk of wood was thrown at him, he had been smoking. So, it's BC, it's kind of fall, things burn here pretty frequently if you're not careful.
Yes. Maybe
this Sasquatch, if that's what it was, didn't like that and said, get out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe because they will return with gifts as well. Like if they're comfortable with you, right?
I've heard that too. They'll leave rocks in kind or likewise anything. Right. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's been stories of all kinds of little baubles being found, probably from the people who ran away from them.
But maybe
they just drop a whole camp load of stuff, which brings me to the theory that if you are running from them, or if you're running, you become prey.
Yeah, I've heard that. Well, you hear that about almost any animal.
I guess so. Yeah, it won't be any different there. Sure.
No, but I've heard that too. Or if you turn around, then they will, chase you, sort of thing, or follow you. I've heard that story too. Even Sheldon Cuisance mentions that in his Headless story. Like whatever you do, don't turn around. Because then they believe they would be prey. So I could see, you hear enough people talking about that, it does make sense. That could happen. I know I wouldn't turn around. Just on principle, if I thought there was something like that. I've been in the woods and felt there was something there. And it's like, just keep walking, where it'd be the bear or whatnot. Like just don't acknowledge
you can't even play possum because it'd be a bad place, bad spot to be in. He goes, okay, I'm just looking. Yeah, it goes, or if they are territorial or have young in the area.
Yeah.
Correct.
I could see that too. I've heard stories in relation to there being a young Sasquatch and the mother Sasquatch doing everything it's like any animal to draw your attention away from it or scare you off because of the young. That makes perfect sense to me. And I know in the We Want to Believe episode I mentioned, we'd been at a lake where for 20 years this hunter and fisherman would go up there, and if he got too close to one end of the lake, he'd start hearing knocks. This was also talked about in On the Trail of Bigfoot, The Origin. I shared this story, but only on the one end of the lake. So could that have been Sasquatch? And they've been Sasquatch sighted. Could that have been Sasquatch letting them know, hey, this is our territory, piss off, kind of thing. I could see that. That makes perfect sense. Anything that's we are all territorial.
Yes.
People are, animals are, and we get really uptight if people start trespassing. And when we're in the woods as people, we seem to think we own the place and just kind of go wherever we want. And that's not always the best thing to do.
That's true. That's that common sense thing again.
Yeah, right. It's amazing how much that comes into play. Like, it's smart with this stuff.
yes. I think we were discussing this before the show, actually.
Yeah.
It applies everywhere. Okay, so your thoughts? And there are people who believe, of course, that Bigfoot and Sasquatch is like an apex predator and that there's literally nothing friendly about them. Again, Portlock, Alaska being a really good example of that. Do you find it's like that up here? I mean, Canada, because you're really not that far from Alaska technically, and there's not like there's a boundary which doesn't allow them to cross, technically speaking, right?
No, I mean, I've heard like sort of, like all the investigating I've done, I've heard more stories. I've heard that there's not a problem. Like the encounters are generally pretty friendly, or they're very brief because someone saw something and you kind of see each other and go, ooh, and take off. I've heard stories about Sasquatch helping people, like who have been fallen or slid off something. There seems to be very few Portlock stories out there. So I think it's like any encounter, like, we had a horrible grizzly bear attack here in British Columbia a couple of weeks ago. Wow. But those are very, very rare. And I think, Sasquatch, I think if they're real, there's even less of them than there are grizzly bears. So the majority, you're only going to hear of it's going to be very rare when you hear of like a real aggressive, violent encounter. I mean, this is talking about Canada. It sounds like the skunk ape will, no matter what, is always out to get you. You know what I mean? But that's down in the States, in other parts of the country. So I think this species, again, probably has different offshoots, and maybe some are more aggressive than others, right?
Have you been face to face, or close to being face to face with the Sasquatch?
I think in Sasquatch Legacy, that was about the closest.
Yeah.
It could have been, if that was indeed a Sasquatch. That would have been just feet away where we were, where Ollie Kenton and I were. And it was like, you get even, I think in the film, hear the movement in the trees, just like maybe 10 feet away.
Yeah.
Filming something else that's going to be coming out next year. I'm pretty sure there was something close to where we were, and it would have been like in the vicinity, the same sort of thing moving. There is something that I'm very excited for people to watch that comes out of like February, March, that Ollie and I experienced, where there was something really close to where we were, and we have had thermal cameras going, and it spooked. And Ollie he's like an outdoor adventurer dude, and him and his wife have an outdoor equipment company, and he spent most of his life in the woods, and he's like, we should go. It's time to leave.
Nonchalant. All right. Yeah.
Let's go. So you can listen. I don't want to give too much away, but it's just like, I think the more I've done this, as with paranormal investigating, the more you go looking for something, sooner or later you start to find evidence of something. And so the more Bigfoot research I've done in the last year and a bit, I've had more encounters with whatever's out there that could be something.
Yeah, I would think so. A lot of times when you see them, it's to distract because you're too close to one of them, so they can get away. Or maybe they're
like a decoy or diversion.
Yeah,
I could see that.
Yeah. Is it because that they make the apex predator comment or question I asked? Is it because they're more intelligent that makes them a top predator?
Well, everything suggests these are not dumb. There's a high intelligence going on there.
Yeah.
They may not speak our language, but I think they're, just everything suggests that they are as bright as we are, if not brighter in some respects. But more with an animalistic instinct to them. They see, it sounds like there's cases where they live in families or little small pockets or tribes. You know what I mean? Like the Albert Ostman story and several others. There's something to it. It's like, it's an intelligence. It's
What are your thoughts? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But they're human enough in that regard, which supports some of the DNA that people have, like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. in Portlock, didn't the Sasquatch kill a lot of people and ran them off their land fisheries?
Basically, that's what happened. Yeah. Yeah.
But in all fairness, the indigenous people at the time were the consensus from people who have been researching, the Sasquatch in the area, was that they maybe overfished and stimulated all the resources and like pretty much wasn't respectful of the land. Like there was just a lot of death on there.
And then the idea is that the Sasquatch stepped in to correct the balance, right? Like,
Yeah.
that ties into a lot of what the indigenous say about them being a guardian of the forest.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. With everything that goes on, you get the missing 411 and the things showing up, especially on the BC out near the ocean and the water, of running shoes with a foot in it, or
Oh yeah,
all
Those
the
stories,
crazy stuff that happens out there. I have to ask, is any of that get attributed, like, to maybe a Sasquatch or Bigfoot out there just having had enough?
I think like some of the missing 411 stuff seems to be. The feet, no, I don't think so. Like, people have tried attributing that to Champ.
Yeah, Champ. That could be,
not
yeah.
Champ, the
Yeah.
Cadbrosaurus, Caddy, sorry.
Yeah.
But no one can really find anything concrete to support anything like that. I know it was David
Ladies.
Yeah, Pallades seems to be making a connection
Yeah.
to Sasquatch in some of these cases, but some of his stuff's getting pretty far out too, where it's hard to kind of take it too seriously at the same time. But I've heard that, and I mean, I'm sure you could. I wouldn't doubt it. People go missing. Thomas Steenberg says people go missing in the woods. If you cross paths with an ornery Sasquatch, why? Maybe that's it. Or if you're being disrespectful or being dumb or trying to shoot or trap one.
Yes.
You're going to get in trouble, I'm sure, right? So some of these missing stories, I think it'd be foolish to not think of the possibility that you could attribute some of them to Sasquatch, but don't think you could attribute everything to it.
I think there's a common sense factor as well. I mean, it's a dense area. There are probably cave systems and sinkholes and everything all over the place that people could get themselves into some pretty serious trouble. But it's always easier to blame the Sasquatch in some cases.
I think so. And you got to take into account weather too. Higher elevations, you can get snow out of nowhere. And if you're not prepared for it, you're screwed. Like you really, you got to be really careful. So I think, a lot of it, common sense, it keeps coming up through the entirety of this episode. Like if you're going into the woods, be prepared and go with someone who knows what they're doing. Is a very important part to it.
So the theme of the show, boys and girls, would be common sense. I think that's what we keep going
Mr.
back
Dress
to.
Up and hold up the word of the day or something like that? Or is that Mr. Rogers? Like common sense.
Common sense. Seems to be, it keeps coming up a lot.
Don't blame everything on Sasquatch. It's not fair to Sasquatch, for one.
I know. It's true. So what are your thoughts? Have you talked to any people? Have you met any people up there who seem to have, let's say, dialogue and good relations with Sasquatch in the area? You read about some families who just, oh yeah, we've got like a whole family of them back there and we leave them food, they bring us gifts. But in turn, the Sasquatch become very protective of that family. And as much as the area, they sort of look at them like, you're part of our tribe and we take care of you. They don't like intruders, even around their people.
Yeah, I've heard those stories too. The closest I could come to that was down at Harrison Hot Springs. There's people who, especially when you get out to the more rural areas where they don't, maybe not to the extent where you hear like the Sasquatch being protective or anything, but where they definitely seem to coexist alongside them. And everybody gets along fine. I know there's like Sasquatch Mountain Resort, which is a ski resort up in the mountains in the Mystery Valley right near Harrison Hot Springs, where there's been Sasquatch stories there forever, right? And you just hear the people who live there a long time just have a lot of stories of more just seeing them, right? And it, kind of cohabiting around each other. And if no one's doing anything to take away from each other, they seem to get along just fine. But I've heard the stories. Like I know Shannon LeGros on her podcast has talked about that. She's had a few people on with stories like that. Yeah.
It's insane. It really is. It's insane. But
I think that'd be wild, personally.
it is. Oh, it is.
You know, that's possible. Like, wow.
It is. But again, for me, it's insane because these beings are just so elusive, and everything points to the fact that they're not really huge fans of we humans, and the fact that they would almost adopt you, being you take care of them, they take care of you. I mean, we have them here in Ontario. We have stories. There's families out near North Bay who talk about the same idea. And I'm thinking, God, that's like way out into the center of the country,
Yeah.
So
I think it's totally possible. Brad Trent mentions that when we were talking to him, that they just generally probably try to avoid us in most cases. Do you know what I mean? Like in most cases, they probably do. But again, if you're living in the woods, say on land that branches on their territory, and you're doing nothing harmful to the environment, it's almost like a Wendigo thing. If you're not like cutting down more trees than you need, you're just cutting enough for like firewood. And if you're hunting, you're not like slaughtering all the animals in the area, and you're being really good. They'd probably have to, over time, see that your intentions are positive, and then maybe leave a rock, you know what I mean? Or something like that, to see how you interact. I could see it being a process that would take a lot of time to build that level of trust.
Right?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And this is also a good point. A lot of people make the mistake, or a lot of people make the mistake. I'm all right. Is that if you don't know who that Sasquatch encountered before you, and if that other person may have shot at it or tried to hurt it, and then you encounter it, and it's just it's not good because
I can see that.
Yeah,
that would make perfect sense, right?
Question. Kat had asked earlier if you were in Canada.
Yes, Western Canada.
Yes. Have you had any encounters with the loup-garou?
No, I have not. But I don't. It's for one. It doesn't seem to be much in terms of loup-garou activity out this way. We're starting to see a little bit of dogman stuff in the Kootenays, but not like a ton.
Yeah.
So no, I haven't at this point.
Yeah, I think they're
be interested in doing so.
They're a little calmer than the dogman, because the Indigenous speak a lot of them. Like all across the country, which is interesting. They seem to be okay with talking about that.
Yeah, they do. It's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Wayne says Sasquatch is well suited to its environment, whereas if we humans need all manner of material things to survive in that same environment.
It's very, very true.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on, I'm just going to take this into a bit of a different direction because I'm not sure if you've considered it or not. What about the theory of giants?
Well, that comes up too, down in the Harrison Hot Springs area, which is where a lot of the stories are.
Yeah.
And that there's even there's a story that Harrison Hot Springs puts out on their website. There's a mystery mountain, also known as Morris Mountain or Mount Keenan. And every so many years, the Sasquatch would gather there and light bonfires kind of thing, which is kind of interesting because I've been to this mountain and I don't know how many they'd fit on it because it's very, very small. So at first, that's really interesting to me. But what I've heard from a gentleman named Bill Reed, who's like an anthropologist, is actually, we might be attributing that to Sasquatch, but it was something else. It was like another tribe of very giant people. So like giants. Do you know what I mean? And that weren't Sasquatch, but because of just how belief and stories get told, they had eventually meshed them just into the Sasquatch lore that's been around there. And I know Albert Ostman, his actual original documentation wasn't that he was taken by like Sasquatch, but like by a tribe of giant people. And then it became, with hair, like hairy, but like not like Sasquatch. And then in time, that his story turned into more about Sasquatch. So I find that really interesting.
Yeah, it is because there's so many different theories with that. Like there are people who've even photographed Sasquatch, where some almost seem to have more of a smoother human face, and then you get those that look more primate, I guess.
Yeah, and then even there was like the Big Blondie story where it was like, teak fur, but the face was black.
Wow.
Right? Like,
Yes.
so that
Yeah.
makes you really pause as well and wonder, like, there's got to be, I guess, it couldn't just be one particular
No. It's like
breed of
us.
Sasquatch, right? It's like us.
Right.
Yeah, we have different skin color and hair
Mm-hmm.
color and all that too, right?
This is also another big theory that they're part of the Nephilim chain. The bloodline has been diluted over the years.
I've heard that theory too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. It is fascinating how it just seems to be so diverse. So many similarities, but so diverse as well. I mean, do we have out in western part of Canada where you are there different types of Sasquatch that you've come across? I guess you don't really know because I mean you're coming across a lot of you got behavioral stuff that you're able to see, but have you ever seen anything with respects to fur? Just like Zizan says, like fur or different sightings?
There's been yes, like I said, there's the big blondie, so it was more teak colored fur with a black face.
Yeah.
Most of them are what you'd do, sort of the humanist face, no real neck, but like the fur, darker fur.
Yeah.
Some of the fur you can hear is more brownish, a lot is more black. And some of them are quite shiny, like the fur is very shiny and reflective. Others seems like more dirty. So it varies. There seems like there's not just one particular kind here on the coast, which I think is really interesting. And then, like you say, as you go up the coast into like Alberta, they get bigger. Up into Alaska, they get bigger.
They make everything big in Alaska.
Right?
So it is bigger in Alaska.
Yeah.
It's really and meaner.
Which makes sense because the bears get bigger up as you go towards Alaska, and the moose get bigger. You know what I mean? It's just everything's bigger. There's less people, there's more food. So that makes sense, right? As well. And then differing heights too. Like I know I think Sheldon, his encounter up in the Nicola Valley, it was like sort of like 7-8 feet tall, and then you hear somewhere it's closer to 9-10 feet tall. There's a large margin of variations to them.
Well, I guess it's like people, and I know JD saying, there's a lot of different tribes of giants as well. So could we be? I mean, if you're getting into giants, it would be that human factor with DNA. I'm wondering if that's why maybe some of this type of DNA is being found.
It could be like that'd be really interesting. What is that other DNA strand on it? It's human and right.
And
yes. So it's not like human and ape. It's something else they didn't know. They don't know, right?
No, and it seems to be the maternal DNA. Like that's what the humanoid side of things, which would make sense. Crying baby in the woods, track the woman.
Yeah, both sides. You know what I mean? Like,
I know. All you'd have to do is look up the Sasquatch Genome Project with Dr. Melba Ketchum. I mean, there's some people who want her quiet. You have to be hitting on something when people are trying to like she's had an assassination attempt, threats on her life. Like you're onto something. And this, I mean, she's got one of the the most well-known DNA companies, like literally, or laboratories in the United States. I mean, she's been in court and has been able to help prosecute, killers and such. It's not like she's a scientist. She knows what's up, but she also has had experiences with Bigfoot being practically in her own backyard, which is where the interest came from. It's like, what are you?
But if anyone then has the tools to unlock that mystery,
yes,
it's her. And then you're right. Like, I think if you could prove, it's like all this stuff, like just think if it's like, okay, we've got irrefutable proof that there's a species that's part human, part something else. It's been on this planet forever. None of that's talked about in the Bible or anything like that. It suddenly your belief systems start to fall down. It's like if the government, there's that Steven Spielberg movie coming out called Disclosure Day. The trailer's amazing, but if there's full disclosure, how would people react? It was like, yep, there's beings from other planets, or you know what, we're from other planets too. We're just a colony.
Yes,
that was put here. Like everything falls apart, completely falls apart. This little house of cards we've built to explain everything of why we're here and it gives us comfort, that falls down. What do you think's going to happen?
100%. I mean, you look at just the Bible itself is only have selected books
Yeah,
within it.
right.
Whereas you get into the Ethiopian Bible, for example, it's got like 60, it's between 65 and 75 different ones at least.
Oh
So
yeah,
you start to realize like if they left it out, it's for a reason.
there's
But
for a reason, so there's this
yeah,
other species on the planet, and then ghosts are real, and we're communicating with them, and they come from a different dimension, and we pass back and forth all the time. It was just everything,
dimensional bleed through.
right?
God, simultaneous. Yeah, it's
I mean,
craziness.
we're
Yeah,
getting into like sci-fi territory, but
I
like
know. But
that's the thing people don't quite understand when you're looking at this subject matter.
mhm,
That's why I think it makes people uncomfortable, because you're suddenly challenging belief systems.
mhm,
And people are very protective of what they believe. Some people, we need it just so they need it so much
mhm.
that their whole fabric of reality would just fall apart if something
Oh,
challenged it too much. You see that politically. So imagine suddenly it's not just politically, you're dealing with like
mm.
spiritual questions and questions about origin and things like that.
No, yep. What can you say to that? But again, getting back into the whole, the whole Nephilim thing. DNA evidence will never work because the female is human and the male DNA is angelic. If we're getting into the Nephilim side of things,
Yeah, we're
I
looking at
guess,
that side
I
of it.
guess that would complicate things to say the least. What people don't understand is there were 5 tribes of giants after the flood, and even more than that, 200 fallen, I'm guessing, angels were the Nephilim. Again, the Nephilim theory again, it's you get to that thing where I think it's very important to stay open-minded
Yes.
with things like this. There have been whistleblowers who've come full out and said, "No, I've seen Sasquatch in military bases."
Yeah, I've heard those stories too. I've heard people who've had like alien abduction stories, and there's Sasquatches on spaceships. People talk about that. Like,
No,
really?
see,
Like,
crossover, just crossing over,
right?
exactly. And then there's, of course, the interest in a lot of the cryptids as we see it and hear about it with dogmen a lot, and also with Sasquatch. I mean, when Mount St. Helens blew, there were helicopters and people kept taking photos of military helicopters bringing Sasquatch out. I think there were 2 or 3
Mhm.
that were hauled out of there. So it's like, there's interest there. Do we have such a thing in Canada? Do we
I
care?
don't know.
Do the Canadians care?
Do we have enough of a
Military?
military to do anything like that?
Okay, you win.
Right? That's where my argument comes. We barely have enough people to staff our army as it is.
Yeah.
Like, don't waste time looking for monsters.
Yeah,
Like,
no, exactly. But I think it's more not even so much just for that, but there's that whole theory of the super soldier,
yeah.
right?
Oh,
And
oh yeah. And that's
yeah,
been
that's a
around
big one with
forever.
Dogman, especially.
Yeah. I've heard
Yes.
that theory with Dogman and Goatman too. Like they tied it into that somehow, right? I think
Yeah. Yes.
that's
Yes.
where we're already dealing with stuff that's on the fringe. So like,
Yes, I
then trying
know.
to
I
tie it
know.
into all these other things is just like, wow, man.
I'm just anxious to see where you're going to go with all of this because, I mean, it's in doing your continued research. Do you go back to the same area? Let's say, Sasquatch Legacy. Is this an area you would return to because that you were getting some kind of interaction? Do you want to try to build a rapport and maybe in hopes of creating a stronger connection?
I think that would be the next logical step,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, the project I'm working on now, we went back to where we'd filmed that We Want to Believe 5 years ago, where the fisherman and hunter had his woodknock experience.
Mhm.
It's like when you investigate a haunted house or alleged haunted sighting, if you get activity, the greatest thing is to be able to go back time after time after time after time and test it. And over the time, we've been lucky enough to have homeowners who have very much allowed us to come back into their homes repeatedly, that's the only way you can build any kind of case for any of this.
Mhm.
One-offs don't work,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you could go somewhere once where there's supposed to be something and nothing happens. And if you never go back, you might be missing out on every opportunity that's like, there. Same with like Sasquatch. I mean, if they're like this animal, they'd be territorial. They'd have what patterns where they would move about.
Mhm.
And if you had an experience, you've got to go back to where that experience is. Again, you had one and just see what happens.
Mhm. It's like people when you're getting into the paranormal, you go to this one place that's supposed to have everything, and you're just sitting in the corner. There's nothing going on at all. But it's like I have found in situations like that, like if you can go and build a rapport,
Mhm.
because they're still people, spirit people, but it's building that rapport. Then all of a sudden, as they get used to, you start being able to experience more and more and more.
Exactly. And you go in respectfully,
Yes.
and not like, try to antagonize anything, which I know became really big online with, YouTube videos and TikTok. Like, you go in, you be respectful,
Hmm.
and it is amazing what can happen if there is something there.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
really is. I think the same is true of Sasquatch. I mean, one thing I learned talking to like Thomas and them is like the most important thing to do first is just look at the facts and stick to the facts.
Hmm.
And that if you're going to have a Sasquatch encounter, you do it by being quiet and respectful. And if they want to show themselves, they will show themselves to you.
Hmm.
Those are your two best bets when researching this.
Hmm. Makes sense. That logical common sensing again.
Logical common sense again.
Synchronicities. Kat says, I have a friend whose husband is department head at a university, Alberta, I'm guessing, university, ATA.
Okay.
Animal sciences. He's tested hair, came back inconclusive.
There's been a few cases of them finding hair and it being inconclusive as well. No real of unknown origin, basically. You know what I mean? Or just, I don't know. Maybe the sample's been muddied too much, kind of thing.
Yeah, you have to be very careful with that. Problem with Bigfoot research is at a standstill. People need to be more open-minded because it's just being flesh and blood creatures is not working anymore. The study showing that it's just flesh and blood creature is not any, like there's more to it, I guess.
Yeah, this is the point. And I think you got to start with that though, and work your way back and do the Occam's razor approach, right? You don't want to start with like the most out there concept and try to like filter it down into this narrow thing. Start narrow and work out.
Yes. She goes, no, it's in the US.
Okay. In the US somewhere.
Yes. All right. Yeah, well, I think that's the key is just trying to be open-minded. If you can build that rapport, you might just get something. So what do you do if you come across, let's say, a family of Bigfoot that you end up with this rapport with? Do you tell people where they are? Do you just see that? See, I have to ask because there are some who are just like, it's just they're like, no, they don't seem to care. They just put it out there.
Yeah, I think, geez, like you got to be really careful. If like that, and that's like a lot of ifs that you're building up to. But if you do, I think you've got an opportunity to learn as much as you can and document. And if you started telling people, I think you would get a huge. People go up there trying to kill it.
Yes,
kill them, right? And that's horrible. Like that's. I agree with Janie. Like we must protect them, in my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah. This is something. If it's real, this is something that's changes everything.
Well, lending to the maybe human side of things, I believe I was told, and I did read that in California, you could be charged for murder for killing one.
I've heard that as well.
Yes. I suppose we don't have any laws like that or anything here.
I think someone was trying to get something like, I know like Ogopogo, it's protected. Like it's been deemed a species that's protected. Yeah. Really, 100%.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy inside.
You're not allowed to hunt or fish or try to kill whatever is in Lake Okanagan. Like you're not.
That's substantial because that is an admission that there is indeed something very special in Lake Okanagan.
And it's good for tourism. So you don't
sure
mess
is.
With
Yeah.
Right? Like
yeah, exactly. But it does lend to the fact, that if you can be charged for murder, then that has to lend a little bit to the whole human aspect.
That's kind of my thinking. And I mean, there was Eli Watson did a couple episodes on it, but there's a gentleman who claimed that he had killed 2
put it in the freezer. Is that
Yeah,
the
you
same
know, in
guy?
California, he hid the body, and then it's a messed up story. And I mean, if you watch the footage of the interview with the guy, like something happened, like he did something. Whether or not he killed a Sasquatch, like the theory is maybe he killed another person in the woods, but his mind has made him believe it's a Sasquatch just to kind of try to live with the guilt of it all. But I'm not sure if that's what eventually lended itself to it being the law in California. You know what I mean? Like it could have been.
The footage, though, I mean, it looks like he's only got body parts, lower
Yeah, if it's the
extremities,
same case, one of those that case I think might have eventually been proven to be a hoax.
well,
There's been a couple
this is stuff that's still surfacing now. Like it's
yeah,
being reposted, and like, hunting in the woods with my father. My father, had, my father did this years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And here in the freezer it goes, kind of thing. And it's just sort of like, and then there's one, I think, was where they just found, like, I don't know, there's people who have done it. They are out there. But I think if you had something like that, would you not want to, again, you're kind of putting a bullseye on your back.
You are, for
because
one
if
thing,
Dr.
yeah.
Ketchum is getting death threats, and imagine if you were in possession of one, even to try to put it in the proper hands for scientific analysis, would there be a more higher up, interference with making sure that never sees the light of day?
Well, I think there would be if we're getting into cover-up territory. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Which is
frightening.
maybe why, and if the people are saying that, after Mount St. Helens, the military was hauling them out anyways,
Well, people saw
they
them.
would already know, like, you know what I mean? The government would already have an idea about this sort of stuff. So some average Joe Blow who shoots one on a hiking trip, how important is that?
Yeah.
In the grand, you'd probably just make it go away.
The same situation down in the land between the lakes in Texas, where people have seen dogman being hauled out in military trucks. Screams super soldier to me.
Oh,
those things are aggressive,
right? I mean, and of course we would try to take its DNA and mesh it with a person and then blah blah. I mean, it's
wow.
we're not right. So
they already think that they've been breeding with Sasquatch or Bigfoot. They call them the Gugway.
I've heard stories about that. I've heard that the dogmen and Sasquatch are also supposed to be mortal enemies. You know what I mean? There's so many different theories about these
they're
things.
having unions because the Gugway is a thing. and yeah, and it's like they look like this they have like this baboon-like muzzle, really elongated jaws and protruding fangs, like the wolf part of it being really aggressive and such, but they look like, in their stature, complete Bigfoot. Like, I can't even imagine something that you already got too hostile.
Oh yeah, no. Could you,
Jason? I can't even imagine the dynamics of how that would happen. So,
no, that's what I mean. Like how, how,
but
why?
But it's a thing, unless it's interference, splice and dice.
That could be it too, right? Taking the genetics from both.
It makes so much more sense because I can't envision the other. Not at all. I just don't want to put my mind there. Not at all. But so Kathy says after Hurricane Helen, they were flying them out of North Carolina and Tennessee. That's new. I did not know that, Kathy. You have of information.
Not heard anything about that.
Yeah. So, wow. What do you even say to that? So, of course, out in your neck of the woods, how many do you think, like, have there been any studies done? Like in the United States, they'll say, yes, studies have been done, and there are thousands of these things around, like literally thousands. Like there could be like 4,000 or 5,000 in one state, according to some research. Has anybody done anything like that up where you are?
I think people have sort of taken like a rough stab at it just based on sightings, etc. It'd be more in the hundreds, but we also have a lot more terrain where nobody goes here. Like we just don't. And the big thing is it seems like reports are dropping off.
Really?
Seems to be something that's coming up. Yeah, there's just been less. Other people aren't reporting it to other people and are just keeping the stories to themselves, or there's actually just less sightings happening.
maybe to try to keep people out of the area.
Maybe.
There's so
Or maybe
many.
there's just less and less of them, as time goes on, right? Like like you mentioned, we talked about earlier, there's heydays of sightings in the 70s and the 80s. Maybe that was their big. So Thomas Steenberg says maybe that was their heyday, and just slowly the populations have whittled down. Or they could just be retreating more as we move more into their territory. They're just going further into the more denser, mountains where there's no way people are going to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do that too. That's just my hypothesis on top of it.
Mm-hmm. They're intelligent. They just know.
Yeah.
Tread quietly. Walk around, Foot Clan, hello, welcome back. People figured out Moneymaker is a cover up, okay, and quit giving sighting reports. Makes sense after watching said television show, which again, I can't, I'm not at liberty to just pop out names like that. Unfortunately, it could get me in a heap load of trouble. So he goes, I have a size 13. I always make sure that I put that on my Tinder profile.
Oh, they're talking about Bigfoot for Tinder for Bigfoot earlier. Yeah.
He goes, yeah, if I had one. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so that pretty much lends to some of the things that you're saying as well. It's like the influx that we talk about, whether it's ufology, whether it's paranormal, whether it's cryptozoology, lots of shows. Shows need people,
Yes.
They need stories, they need locations, they need experts. Get me started. Experts. So with that being said, I think after a while, people just start backing away and saying, look, enough.
Yeah, I think so. I think it can get and I think it gets just so out of control.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just, like I said earlier, you got to just kind of start with the basic facts and work through that first, and then sort of rule anything out that way before you start jumping into all these other realms of possibility. Not saying any of them aren't possible, but
yes,
you got to stick to the facts.
Yes. Knocking on trees is not the only way to develop a James Goodall style communication with these creatures, is what I think. No, agreed. Yeah, agreed. I think most certainly all of the above. I think they're also because they are beings that do need to be protected.
Yes.
Like you say, when you're looking at various cryptids, they are. I love, that Ogopogo is protected, and I'm hoping that we see more and more of that as time goes along. But it just goes to show, like, they need to be protected because the thrill seekers do come out, and it's really, television is great for raising awareness on some things, especially is why I always prefer documentaries to any of the TV series. Stories. I know I work with a lot of different production people. I'm sorry. I'll say it again. I'm sorry, but I do prefer the documentaries. I just feel there's less, control. The control is given more to the people like yourself who are making the documentaries, not the networks are saying, no, we can't do that, or we need this and we need ratings. And I get it. A lot of money gets put into something. It needs to come back. It's an investment. I understand. But people, I think, are just coming to terms with the fact that they want the truth. And they realize by coming and shedding light on some of these beings that people watch this and they're like, oh, I can do that in a weekend.
It's a lot harder to do than that.
Yeah, but this is it's like the, I think the nickname that is given is like the couch investigator.
Yes, armchair investigator, armchair detectives that watch their true crime and unsolved mystery stuff.
Yes, same idea, but with cryptids, and it tends to be very dangerous.
Well, it is, because like we said earlier, first off, you're going into the woods, and you need to know what you're doing if you're going to be in the woods. And then you are dealing with everything else that's in the woods.
Yeah.
And then you could run into what you're actually looking for. And then, like you asked the question earlier, well, what do you do? Suddenly when that's happened, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
You have to be careful with what you're doing. And you got to respect what this is. Like, and I agree that, like someone said earlier, and I think you mentioned it as well, that if you encounter one and your intentions are kind of pure and you're being respectful, there's probably a good chance you're going to not have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You'll
Yeah.
just kind of go your separate ways. I think it's your intention and how you behave
Mm-hmm.
that can affect that outcome, much as it would when you go into like a haunted location and the way you behave there.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Preaching to the choir. Just at a different level. They need to be protected from, yes, governments. They're taking Sasquatch underground bases and doing experiments. Guaranteed they are. Yes. Yeah. I agree. It's, oh man, we are in different times, and I'm sure it's been going on for a long time. He goes, I've heard 3 or 4 stories of the Black Apache helicopters chasing them. I mean, firsthand accounts from the witness, not some cryptid made up stuff.
That's funny.
Yeah. To the point. I love our chat people. Wayne says, yeah, animals are losing their natural habitats and being pushed into other regions, which would stand to reason that Sasquatch would be doing the same thing, most likely to avoid human encroaching on their space.
We have a conversation about that in the documentary as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So maybe that's why you're seeing less and less of
it could
them.
be. Yeah. Yeah.
So
they're just retreating more as we infringe more.
You just got to go to the hot zone.
Right.
I don't know. I often think you have something that could be, like, I mean, the average from sightings. I'll ask this before I make the statement, but what is the average height of the Bigfoot in the area, judging by the conversations or interviews you've had with eyewitness accounts?
Like 7 to 9 feet tall is about the average. Maybe maxing at around 10.
Yeah. Yes, that's still pretty big.
I'm 6'1", so I'd be like, head, my head on top of me, kind of thing. So
yeah,
that's big.
So you get something that size, and the fact that people just want to go out looking for them, poke the bear, hit the tree,
right?
Which is something
you don't
that
even know what that
says.
means. It could be challenging them to something.
I know,
right? Or same with the rock clacking.
Yes.
The call blasting. You don't know what that's. Nobody knows what the Sierra sounds said. Like, did that mean?
Yes. No, exactly. I love Ron Moorhead's, outlook on everything. He's very gentle, and he has spent a lot of time, and he protects the site. He
as he should.
Yes. And it's just fantastic. Fantastic experiences. But when you're getting into, and this is something Foot Clan said, he goes, the tree knocking and the hollering and all of these vocalizations, it can be really annoying. He goes, a vocal blasting is so disturbing. Yes. Right.
And you're also blasting something that's a language that you don't know what it means. They could be telling each other to get bent, and then you just told something in the woods to get bent, and it's like, well, screw you.
Yes.
I'm gonna come and bash your head in. You gotta just think.
It's a sign of war, smacking the tree. You never know, right?
You never know. It's,
But this is a good point. They don't need to be protected if you don't acknowledge them. You don't need to cure your cancer if you don't know that you have it. It's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
Okay, here we go. I was just trying to keep up, make sure I got the first comment before jumping to the second one. He goes, I did have something happen this year that scared me a bit, though that was paranormal footsteps running up at me that changed things a little bit. I was going to go camping, decided not to go that night. So, so I think your mind can run away with you in certain places. I think if you're out in the middle of the woods, like we talked about this earlier, for those who are tuning in, don't try this at home, kids. Yeah. There are natural sounds out in the woods. I spent time in the haunted forest in Romania. All kinds of ridiculous, crazy things happened. And, the whole time my logical brain is going, no, this can't happen. This is a forest, crazy forest, but it's still a forest. You're trying to find the logic. You're just trying to replay everything. It's very, very easy to let your mind run away with you, and it's very, very easy, just to throw caution to the wind and say, yeah, you know, you have to be switched on. Turned on, which is a terrible thing to say. You have to be switched on the entire time you're there.
Yeah.
There's no room for error.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we even had that when we were investigating Kenton's experience at night, and he just starts seeing things. You're already having stuff happen.
Yeah.
That you're attributing to the phenomenon, and then it's dark and you've been out there for hours, and like Kenton said, I'm just seeing things everywhere now, like, and you got to just step back and go like, no, okay, this is, think a moment.
Yes. 100%, because trust me, I wasn't going out of my mind jumping to conclusions. I found 3 deer skin pelts on the ground, walked up, washed, and it was unstable. I had an involuntary muscle reaction to turn. My instinct took over. I was already turned around, bracing my elbows tight to my torso. They were running right up to me, 10 feet or so away. Yeah, it's very easy to do. Very easy to do. I probably spend more time in the woods than anybody in this chat. No offense, and no offense taken.
Nope, it's all good.
Yeah, but, I basically grew up within the woods in a valley on a lake as well, and these were not things I gave any thought to. When you give your opinion, you sound like you're trying out for position. No, sorry, not even remotely
even
interested
trying.
in anything like that. I am not interested in going out and looking for Bigfoot at all. Actually, I will let the professionals do that, but thank you. See, I put up the bad stuff too. I'm completely okay. There's enough people such as Jason who, gets in there, takes it for the team. And, like I said, Ron Moorhead, Daryl Denton. I've just met some incredible people within the field. And I do think that, again, trying to be biased. I don't know anything about this. It's hard to swing one way or the other. I respect the people who go out there. I respect the research, because at the end of the day, there are no experts in it.
No, there's not. And a lot of any experience is always subjective anyways.
Yeah.
Based on what belief system you bring to the table. that will impact what happens for sure.
Yes.
And we talked about this with ghosts in terms of a parapsychological bet. If you've heard all the horrible stories about what happened in Ward A at the former mental hospital, and you go and you start thinking your brain's going to start filling in those blanks of what could be going on there, when it could be something else completely.
Yes, I agree. Well, actually, I do a co-host show with Ron and Daryl, and they're the first to say there are no experts.
Yeah, there isn't.
And
we're all just figuring this out as we go along.
Yeah, and I have a whole lot of respect for people who are out there doing the research. And if the people of your stature and their stature are saying, no, they don't think so much that there are no experts. It's just, that's it, right? So, well, again, you would have to. You should have to come on when they do an open mic. They'll tell you pretty much, because I made the mistake of saying, okay, Ron, Daryl, they're like, no. It's like, kind of like, okay, I stay within my own field, my own limits. And that's where my comfort zone is. And that's why we bring on people, who do the work as to what your opinions are. So, yeah. With that being said, what do you have coming up as we hit up the 90-minute mark?
Well, I'm working on another project right now. We're just sort of in the editing phase for that, and it'll be announced in the new year. But what has been announced is that Alex Petikoff and I are going to do collaborate on a few projects, all set around Sasquatch activity on Vancouver Island.
Oh, wow. Which
is going to be really exciting. There's going to be like a film out of that. And then I'm going to do a YouTube special, and then we'll do content for our own individual projects as well. Plus, I'm writing a book about the whole experience, and that'll all be out before the end of next year. So,
wow, yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's going to be fun. And I mean, that's that's sort of John Bindernagel's, the late John Bindernagel's territory. So we're going to try to reach out to a variety of people from the island who have spent time researching it, and it's going to be good. It's going to be good. We're going to spend a good deal of time there.
Yes. Well, I'm looking forward to that as well. Have you ever worked with Thomas?
I have not.
Seward?
Not
Okay.
at this point, no.
Okay. Yes. 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 Please email me, theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com. Love to hear what you have to say. Absolutely. So when you are ready to release the series and such, you will be, yeah, I'm not monetized. I wish, but no, not this kid. I could, I don't. So, but yes, when you have your series ready to go and such, I hope when you write your book that you will consider coming back on, because it's always such a delight having you on, Jason. I just respect you so much. And I'm appreciative of all of the research that you do.
Thank you very much. No, it's always a pleasure to come on and chat with you, Michelle. Definitely. I will come back anytime you want. I'll come back. So
open door, Jason. Anytime you want to talk about something, it doesn't just have to be cryptids. We could talk about anything. You're always welcome.
Absolutely. That'd be fantastic.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, there we go. Might have to call Kat. She's also here on our network.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's getting there. Kat. Oh, Kat. So thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
Everybody. So everyone, please join us again tomorrow evening. We are going to be having the return of Elsa Dillon, who's going to be discussing past lives, incarnations, prophecies, oversoul, things like that. If you've looked at any of the shows that she's done with us, they're extremely well received and super knowledgeable. She's just super knowledgeable. Just a wonderful, it's like I say, a wonderful human. Just like Jason's a wonderful human. Anyway, guys, thank you. We shall see you tomorrow evening. Jason, have a terrific Christmas, and let's connect again.
Absolutely, Michelle. Merry Christmas. And same to everybody out there listening.
Hey, thanks to everybody in chat. We shall see you all tomorrow evening. Good night.